Gemma Wallace is a British television, film and stage actor, voiceover artist, model, stunt performer and coordinator, musician, presenter and production assistant. Gemma is also the voice of a title character in the action-adventure game Pandora. She has made appearances as a supporting artist in hit TV shows such as Black Mirror on Channel 4, Drifters on E4 and Hannah for Amazon Prime. She has dyspraxia, dyslexia and visual stress, Erlin syndrome. This episode of a podcast is brought to you in association with Dyspraxic Help for You Women, who are raising awareness and support for dyspraxic women. Follow the account on Twitter at DH4UWomen. Now, here is your host, Billy Stanley.
Hello, Gemma. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you keeping during these turbulent times?
Yeah, not too bad. Just, taking each day as it is and keeping myself busy.
Do you find yourself doing things you wouldn't have done prior to the coronavirus, as in, like, things you would like to keep you occupied and stuff, or...?
In a way, I'm trying to create new things, as much as there is a bit more time. I'm trying to do new things. Like I'm trying to start writing, which I would have never done before, with confidence. So I was like, yeah, I'll start writing a bit. And we did get a dog near the beginning, so taking him for walks early in the morning is definitely something new. So getting used to that, as always.
Yes. I suppose after the lockdown and the coronavirus is over, we're going to have a nation of bakers and dog walkers.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I'm not really much of a baker. I'm not very good at baking. I like baking, but I'm not good at cooking.
See, I wouldn't mind baking. I just don't really like the idea of eating cakes. It just looks so unhealthy. But
exactly, yeah, because I would have to eat it all. So it's like, I'll be good. I won't bake it so I don't get fat.
I just don't see the fun of making a cake for not to eat it. You'd have to eat it to bake it.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely. So may I start by asking about your upbringing and childhood, if that's okay?
Yeah, cool. So my upbringing and childhood, I've been quite fortunate, to be fair. I've both my parents and my older brother, and we spent a lot of time together. We spent a lot of time visiting family. So at the time I had family in Wales, my grandparents from one side. And I remember spending most of my holidays there, enjoying the beach, playing with the dogs and things like that. So I really enjoyed that. And then every Tuesday I would go over my mum's side, my nan and granddad's, and we would do all the sort of same things, catch up. My granddad would help me with homework, and we would whistle, sing songs, do the things that I wasn't allowed to do at home because it irritated my brother. So I had a pretty good upbringing, to be fair. I'm really fortunate because I've got a lot of happy memories. I've got lots of my dad has a big circle of friends, and we spent loads of times doing camping, going on little trips, and because there was loads of kids. We're all adults now, but when we were kids there was loads of us, so we would all just spend time with one another and lots of sleepovers and things like that around friends. So I have lots of happy memories, I'd say. Yeah, it's been a good one.
Oh, that's lovely. I really like it when I hear positive childhood stories, because it's like, I suppose there's always some negatives to some stuff, but overall, I guess if you look back with tinted glasses, then you might want to look for negative. But when you can openly say it was positive, that's nice as well.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, there's going to be negatives at points, but overall, I think, especially as becoming more of an adult, I've definitely, become more grateful for what I have, and, not picking the little bits, being like, oh, but, he might have irritated me here, or this little thing happened here. It's like, looking back at it, I've definitely learned to appreciate what I've had, and, spending time with loved ones, and how a lot of them were there for me when I needed it, with cousins and aunties and things like that. So yeah, exactly. I think also with my mindset is always looking at the positive anyway. don't get me wrong, you don't ignore the negatives, but overall, yeah, I've enjoyed my childhood.
Nice. I think with this Blitz war spirit, war spirit we've got, it's like we're able to appreciate like the smaller things in life as well. We can appreciate the fact we've got our health. We've got, as long as we've got food and water, roof over our head. Looking back, we had it quite easy going back compared to now, haven't we?
Oh yeah, exactly. It's always funny because for years, when you get like the older generation going, oh, you were lucky, you had this when you were younger, you had this. But looking back, it's like, wow, we did have for me, I did have quite a bit. Like technology was developing at the time, sure. And it's like, I loved it. It was a nice balance of technology and also playing, in gardens and outside, and going on adventures. So yeah, I think for me, I had a great time. Like I was in a perfect kind of time.
Lovely, I like that. So, to what degree was your childbirth like, from your parents' recollection?
So, as far as I know, it actually went pretty smooth. My mum said that I was a water birth. So, I don't think the hospital had many of them. It was quite new. I remember she was telling me that it was quite bizarre. She had a lot of doctors and things like that in and out, kind of observing, because they hadn't really had a water birth, I think, there. So, yeah, my mum said she had a pretty chill time. She just spent her time in, like, the paddling pool, just relaxing. And it was on a Sunday, I believe, and the rugby was on. So my dad was just kind of peeking out, apparently, the doorway, just keeping an eye on the rugby, being like, you all right? Yeah, all right, cool. So, yes, apparently she said she was pretty relaxed, but it took a while. So as she was about to get out, there came me. They caught me, luckily, and things went quite smooth, which is really good. So yeah, I think luckily I was my birth was quite safe. I was a big baby, but nice and healthy,
Oh, good. I hear a lot of. I ask this question to every guest, and about childbirth and childhood, and there seems to be a mixed bag of answers. So some people say it was a normal childbirth, like calm as it can be, and childhood was calm and resolute. And then you've got other people saying that, myself included, that say they had a bit of a mixed bag of an upbringing and a really traumatic childbirth, a labour experience. Really? So it's, and then going forward in terms of how to sort of work out where the dyspraxia came from, it's hard to ascertain whether it came from trauma from childbirth or delayed development due to traumatic upbringing, or whether or not it's genetics. No one seems to know, and I think that's the big uncertainty of dyspraxia and hidden disabilities is what is the root cause, and if there is no root cause, where did it come from? Where's it stemmed from? No one seems to know.
Yeah, no, it is so interesting, actually. Yeah, because to be honest, I personally don't know where it comes from, and it is very interesting to think there's not. It makes you wonder if there's, as you say, a specific moment that it changes or it starts, or it's a very, very interesting one.
Yeah, it's like they say. I'm thinking in terms of trauma side of it. They say that there's been a lot in the press in the last week or two that former footballers got dementia late in life because of hitting their head quite a lot playing football, and that caused issues when they got older. And then could it happen in the reverse? Could we have done something because obviously the brain is quite formative and the skull isn't that strong as a youngster, could it even just be a simple knock to the head? No one would know, would they? But
that is true, actually. And considering that I was a very clumsy child, I would always have bruises everywhere because I would always fall over or something. So if it is that, it's definitely my fault.
I think it just comes to my head. You know the phrase, "Don't drop the baby."
Oh no.
That could be the stem of dyspraxia. You never know.
Imagine, yeah. Who knows?
So what was your childhood? No, sorry. What was your education like, rather?
So I'll focus mainly on like high school, my high school, because that would be the most prominent years, I think, for you know, difficulties and good things. So anything creative wise, I loved, like whether it was PE, music, drama, art, like anything that was creative and you know, practically doing something, I thrived off. Like I was so obsessed with all of that. You know, when you pick your options and you're only allowed a certain amount, I was like, okay, I'm going to do all the creative ones. And they were like, no, you need some, you know, more either like English or maths or something. And I was like, but I'm not good at them. I don't want that. So because I wasn't able to do all of my options, I was like, okay, luckily my art teacher, they started like a an after school class, so you would still get the same degree, GCSEs, but you would just do it, I think it was like every Wednesday, 2 hours or something after class, and you would do basically the whole course but kind of short course. So I was like, yes, I'm going to do that, just because I didn't want to skip out on doing anything non-creative. I was like, well, I'm good at those things, why can't I, you know, do it practically? But yeah, as I say, anything that was more practical, I was good at. But when it came to things that were a bit more, you know, anything that was like maths or science, I struggled so hard with them. I've always struggled quite a bit with maths. You know, that was always the things that, like I said, like my granddad would help me with maths. Or it got to a point that when I was getting to my GCSEs, I was actually getting quite low grades for maths. I think I was getting like D's. And obviously maths, English and science are quite important, especially, you know, later on in life, they always want at least like a C, for example. So luckily, because my mum worked at the schools, she had a friend who was able to teach maths. So I would have to get extra classes with her after school in maths. And as much as I hated it, because I think, well, most people who are creative are not a big fan of that sort of stuff. So for personal experience, I hated it, but it was one of those things I accepted that I just had to do, because it was like, if I just do it once, I get over and done with it, I don't have to worry about in college and things like that being like, you haven't got your maths. So I had to get extra maths because I really struggled. Science, I think I barely scraped through, like it wasn't good. And that was the thing, like I'd done a lot of, you know, practicing and, you know, going over all the textbooks, everything you could get from W.H. Smith's. Like we had all the books, and I would be writing for days, and I just found it so hard. And for English, for example, I did enjoy English. Like I liked being creative and writing stories and using my imagination. But when it came to physically writing it, it was like a kind of roadblock. You know, I still get in my speech, you know, you kind of have a bit of like a bit of a pause. You're like, where am I going with this? It's trying to get all your thoughts together, and that's what I struggled the most. So I think, you know, I had a couple of friends, and my friend Katie, she would help me every now and again. I remember one time we were doing like this poem, and I was just like, I can't do it. And I think that's when she showed me like the right button. And you know, in Word, when you can look for other different versions of that word, I discovered that, and I was literally changing every single word. I was like, yes, that sounds smart, that sounds smarter. And it got me really good, and I got in like the top English class. And then when I got there, I think everyone was like, Gemma, how are you here? And you're not good at maths. I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna go with it. Let's just ride. So I just kind of winged it. I think I would write stories forever and ever. Like I would run out of time in my essays because I would still be going on and on. And then when you actually read it, you know, read it back, it would be the same thing, you know, just all jumbled up. So I really did try in school, and I did enjoy it. Like I had great times with my friends and stuff. But when it came to more of the more academic classes, I did struggle. But, you know, I think for me, I just persevered. I was more, my goal, as bad as it sounds, my goal at the time, I was like, I need to beat my brother. Like, he's really smart. He's always been, and he's one of the types of guy, you know, that just wakes up before an exam or test and they smash it without any, you know, homework or anything. And it bugged me so much because I'll be, you know, revising for weeks. So I was like, I need to get as many GCSEs as him or more to win. So quite competitive. So that kind of kept me going. But yeah, no, I did struggle with it, but I think I just kind of pushed through, and I was like, I need to, like, I can't not fail, sort of thing.
Definitely. And with regards to classroom environment, did you struggle, as in couldn't keep up with, say, the teachers and the writing of the lessons, or did you perhaps have problems with like what other dyspraxics have, as in handwriting, where the hand hurts and poor literature where you can't actually read it, or was it just other stuff that perhaps hindered you?
Oh yeah, I still have it now. I still write things now, and people are like, I'm really sorry, but I can't understand your writing. Like, yeah, I still struggle with it. Don't get me wrong, nowadays you don't write as much, which is kind of fortunate for me. But note taking, I couldn't keep up because it's that sort of thing of when someone would say a sentence, I would have to, rethink it and say it again in my thought and go, okay, this is what they're saying. And then I'd be like, oh, hold on a minute, I've missed the next bit. Or if I, kind of stumbled up at how to spell something, I'll be there trying to spell it, and then I've missed half the conversation that they've said. And I've always struggled that for a while. Or as you say, I would write so much and I would be writing literally everything they said, because I didn't, at the time in like high school, I wasn't really taught, like, no, just take notes, don't write everything they're saying, just take key points. And I was like, how did no one tell me this? But when I got to uni, I was like, why did I not know this? So, yeah, I did struggle a lot. I would always be kind of looking at my friends' notes and be like, oh, what was that bit? What was this bit? Or how do you spell this? Trying to catch up. But then when I would look back at all my notes, I would have pages of notes. But as you say, I couldn't read any of it. I had no idea what half of it said. So, yeah, my handwriting is pretty poor. But if I can read it, that's what matters.
Are you left-handed or right-handed by any chance?
Lefty, true lefty.
Same. It's really weird. I'm starting to tally up people like, who I meet in the dyspraxic community, and we tend to be left-handy people, which is like more annoying because obviously our handwriting's bad anyway, and then we're literally making a mess of what we're writing because our hand is literally going over our ink. So you're like, oh, get over it.
Yeah. And when you, like, there was these certain pens as well, I remember used to get when younger, when you would advance from the pencil to the pen, and it was a special pen, and everyone was like, yeah, I've got this pen. And then they were really inky. So as you say, you'd have it all along your side and it's all smudged, and it's like, cool, I just come out with all ink all over my hands.
Yeah, literally all over your hand. I had one, I was in an exam once, and one teacher thought I was like cheating by taking notes on my hand, because literally it looked like I had like text on my hand. I was like, no, that's just the way I write. It's just literally, it's printing onto my hand. It's not cheating. But it's funny you should say like about taking things too literally, because I find that as dyspraxics, we tend to do that. Like you said about you would literally take every note from a teacher from a whiteboard and literally take it as gospel, word for word, and literally like I'm like that. And if someone tells me something, I will take it literally. Like if they say pick up the glass on the floor, I will pick up the glass on the floor. I don't think well, they don't mean with your bare hands. They obviously mean with gloves. But I just follow the instruction and I'd go with bare hands to pick the glass up. That's just how my brain works. But
oh yeah, 100%. And there's just simple things. I think I find the most complicated way sometimes to do something, but in my mind I'm like, yeah, that's the simplest way, and then someone point out being like, why didn't you just do this? You're like, oh yeah, I should have done that, my bad.
I was helping my father-in-law cut up some timber sheets the other week as a favour, and he said like sit on the workbench to keep the timber sheet still while he was cutting around me, and I thought when he said sit on it to keep the weight down, I thought he meant literally get my bum and sit on
it.
Yeah, he meant kneel on it. But when he said sit on it, I'm ashamed to sit on it. But, you know, I literally will follow the instruction, and I'm sure you will as well, to the dying kilt. Like, literally, I will take it and run with it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just so annoying when people think we're like daft, but it's just how our brains work.
It's like, no, I'm just listening to you. I'm making sure that I follow your instructions exactly how you said it.
Yeah.
So if you wanted it elsewhere, say it.
Yeah, say it, definitely. So, can you sum up your teenage years then? How was that?
Not too bad. I think, again, kind of like my childhood, I spent a lot of my time, well, my free time, just spending with my friends. I was very fortunate to have a good group of friends in high school that we just kind of accepted each other for who we were, and we would just be ourselves. And I loved that. We would just go around each other's house, having a good time, listening to music, watching films, always going to the cinema. Like every weekend we'll go to the cinema, or hang around the shopping centre looking at things you can't buy. So I definitely spent a large amount with all my different friends, ones either that I met when I was younger or through high school, and just kind of enjoying that, really. I also spent, as I said, as my childhood, I spent a lot of time with family as well. I think I've always just enjoyed surrounding myself with people and, having a good time. Like my parents are always encouraging to do, trying new things. And because I grew up in like brownies and Cubs and Scouts, it was always challenge yourself, or, if you're scared of something, try and do it. And I think that's how I kind of approach a lot of my life now. So yeah, I kind of just was always doing something, and my family were always, like my dad especially, is always like, okay, let's go do something, let's go camping, let's do this, let's do that. So I'm like, yeah, cool, let's go. You want to jump off a cliff into water, let's do it. So we spent a lot of times doing activities, and I would say if I wasn't with people and doing stuff, I was probably just chilling in my room, listening to music, learning songs, and watching films. To be honest, I spend a lot of time watching films, definitely.
Have you got any particular favourites you can list off the top of your head?
Of course. Well, it's when people are like, what's your favourite? And you're like, well, it depends what genre. But growing up, it's always been, if I go Disney, I'll just stick with Disney for now. Otherwise, we'll literally be here all night talk about films. Or like films I enjoyed when I was younger in high school and stuff. It was definitely like Lion King, Pocahontas, Mulan, and like Harry Potter's. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with Harry Potter's. So we would spend all our time watching them and do a lot of movie marathons. There was a lot of movie marathons when I was younger, and the girly movies as well. My childhood, well, my teens, it was definitely kind of being out and about. Don't get me wrong, partying every now and again, but it was with my same group of friends, just having a good time.
So, as you had a settled childhood, did you find that you was able to keep the same set of friends consistently? Like you didn't have any issues holding on to like friendships or relationships in general? Just like, do you find yourself able to just sort of keep a settled balance there?
Well, I think I definitely found it harder as I grew up. I would say when I was younger, I've always been quite open and bubbly, but I think that's because of, who I grew up with. Like, so for example, my older cousins, they were always being very outgoing and bubbly and just such, big personalities. And I definitely wanted to be like all of them and my brother. So I was like, that's how I should be as well. So I definitely adopted those kind of characteristics. And I did have a lot of friends, mainly boys. I always had friends that were boys when I was younger, but that was probably more because I was a tomboy. And I found it quite hard to have friends who were girls. But as I started to grow up a bit, I found my couple people that I loved of like girls. And I think to get like really real, I would say as I grew up, I lost a lot of friendships. And I think that was more through just naturally growing up and changing. I think, it's so hard to accept that, we're all becoming our own people. And sometimes you do drift apart because you have different interests and different goals and different achievements. But I always found it very hard to let go. I would be that person who would hold on to it, like, no, I would be chasing them and be like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And if they would bail or, be like, no, I don't want to, I'd be like, okay, cool, next time. And I've always been like that for a long time. And I think only since kind of going into university that it really hit of like, well, if they don't want to spend time with you, you know, stop wasting your own time, you know, they should respect you as much as you respect them. And I definitely lost a lot of friendships doing what I wanted to do, in the sense of when I left high school, I was like, I'm going to college. I didn't do sixth form. And I was like, I'm going to go to college and pursue acting and do what I love. And I think I lost quite a few friendships from that, because obviously I didn't stick in our friendship bubble. And maybe they perceived it as, you know, she left, she doesn't care about us. I don't know. That's just me assuming. But I did find it hard losing friendships. And I think I became a bit more adapting, going, okay, however they are, I'll kind of act like they are. And I think I did start to change personality a little bit, if that makes sense. But yeah, as I've grown up, I think I've just kind of accepted, you know, this is who I am. And if they don't want to be my friend, as much as it sucks, because I'm a sucker for memories and, you know, looking back at good times and, you know, being nostalgic and wishing that you still had those friendships. But at the same time now, it's like, well, it wasn't meant to be. It's no one's fault, you know, accept it. So, yeah, it's definitely changed. I think now, as much as I can get along with anyone, I think it's harder to make those true friends, because, you know, you're still sussing out each other and they just might not be the right person for you. But yeah, I think I've just learned to accept it, really, that not everyone wants to be your friend. It's like, that's okay. It's not your fault. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I felt it as well. So, some day you're growing up, and one day you've got the friends you had at school, and the next day they're like, somehow one day turns into a year, and you don't realise it, but you drift away quite slowly, and then you sort of look back and you think, hang on, what happened there? And then like them friends are no longer friends as such, more acquaintances. And
Yeah.
I experienced it today, funny enough. I bumped into my old best friend, childhood best friend, who I'd known for the best part of 30 years, and I haven't seen him in like 8 years, but it's like, it's just fun. It's just 1 year becomes 5, and then 5 becomes 10.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it at the time. And although you think like you've lost friends, you don't necessarily lose the friend. You just lose touch.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also sometimes you find those friendships when you do reconnect and you're like, geez, it's been like a couple of years at least. But
Yeah.
it's always so nice when you find those friends who you can just pick up where you left off. And it doesn't matter how long it's been. And those friendships, I think, are so pure of like, you know, you don't have to feel bad doing what you want to do and pursuing your goals, because you can just be like, oh, you can just hit them up and be like, yeah, do you want to go do this? Okay, cool. So yeah, I think it's trying to find that balance of reaching out to the friends and, you know, wanting to hang out, but then also letting things just happen as it is and going, if it's not meant to be, it's just not meant to be. And, you know, they need to give as much as you give, I think.
I think social media has a bit of a downfall in terms of friendships, though, in the respect that because we're seeing what the other person's doing and they're seeing what we're doing, they think that we're not interested in being friends with them, and vice versa. And then somewhere along the lines, no one goes, hang on a minute, we just need to butt our heads together and get in touch and go out and see each other, rather than like just thinking that we don't like each other, sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. It's just dropping them that message, being like, do you want to do something? Like, all right, then. You just have to have that confidence, I think, just to stick your nose in. If they go no, you're like, all right, cool, I'm out.
Yeah, like before Facebook, we would have had to go round to that friend's house and knock on their door, but now we just pretend that we don't like each other because we're not talking on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I remember always just knocking on people's doors. So I still have a friend, but she lives like 2 doors down from me, from my parents' house. And if I wasn't at home, I'll be there. You'll be like, where is she? Oh, over Beth's house. Like, because you just knock on their door and be like, are they in? If they're grounded, I'll wait. Like, or, you know, like the home line, always sitting out while I used to sit out like on the stairs and just be phoning people. I remember those. They were the days.
Yeah, they were good days, weren't they? But it's just, you know, I think we forget one day we're I don't know, 14, 15, 16, and the next day you're 20 plus, 30 plus, and it's them days are gone. It's just a shame, really, but that's the harsh reality of it all.
Yeah, definitely feeling that now. Because as much as like, yeah, I'm 25 and I'm like, oh, back in the days. And obviously a lot of people like, you're still really young, but it's just so bizarre to think, oh yeah, that was like a year ago. And you're like, nope, that was like 3-4 years ago. Cool, okay. Very weird.
Wait till you hit 30, then you'll feel it, trust me.
Oh no.
I'm starting to get my grey hair now. It's really starting it's really starting to bother me now.
Embrace it. No, embrace it. Natural.
I will do. So, at what age then was you diagnosed with dyspraxia?
So I was actually diagnosed. I can't talk. Diagnosed. I don't know how old I was. I think I must have been about 20. It was in my second year of university. I pretty much went through all of education, so I must have been about 20, I would say. It was at the end of my second year, as I said, and I was really struggling with all my written work. You know, I done performance, so a lot of the courses was like, for example, 60% practical, and then obviously you had 40% written. So it's okay, I can deal with that, you know. But as the uni years went on, the balance started to equal a bit more or sway more to written. And I was just really struggling with all my written work. I think university was a big kind of eye-opener of how different writing is, like academically. And like in college, I would just write and write and write, and they were like, cool, here's, you know, the best grade, and I would love it. I'd be like, cool, I'm such a good writer. But then when it actually came down to the quality of the writing, and oh god, I struggled so much. So yeah, so I went to, so they basically done like the testing. At the time it was free, and it was the last year that it was free at my university. And my other half was just like, just do it, you know, there's no harm, it's for free. And through my university experience, I did have a few lecturers being like, are you dyslexic or anything, or, you know, do you have any of that, because your writing kind of suggests it. And at the time I was like, well, you know, so the big comment they said, it was like, in my reflective journals, they'll be like, oh, you write how you speak. I'm like, well yeah, that's reflective, like you write what you've done. And I just didn't understand. And I would get like my dad to look over my written work. I'd be like, oh, can you just double check over it, make sure I haven't, you know, said anything wrong, or things are kind of mumble jumbled and all over the place. But I didn't really think I had anything, you know, because I was like, it's fine, it's just me, this is how I write and this is how I process things, you know, I'm just not good at it. But when I took the free course, at the end of it, they were like, yeah, overall it's dyslexic, dyspraxic, and visual stress. And they were like, are you okay with it? And I was like, well, yeah, you know, I don't see it as a bad thing. I was like, well, what's the next thing? You know, how can it help me? And it helped me massively with university work, with my writing. So I didn't see it as a negative thing, and it didn't freak me out too much, because throughout university I was kind of like, well, maybe I am, you know, because I have a lot of friends, my other half, you know, have different things of like dyslexia, dyspraxic and whatnot. And it was just kind of a norm. And it didn't interfere too much, but it was mainly with writing. I was like, okay, fair enough, I have it, now what? So yeah, so I must have been about 20, I would say. So it was definitely later on, but I think they said that often as you're growing up, you find ways of coping with it and working around it, and you don't even realize your kind of coping mechanisms. And I guess I was one of them. It just didn't come up, really. I didn't flag.
So what was your experience with hidden disabilities before you found out that you was neurodivergent? Did you ever encounter anybody else with any issues that you now know that you've got, or did it ever come into your consciousness beforehand?
Well, yeah, I've always been aware of, you know, different people with learning difficulties and things like that. So, for example, my mum, she works in like primary schools, and basically since I was born, she's helped with children with learning difficulties. So I've always been around people with it, you know, certain family members, friends and stuff, and it's never been an issue or a problem. You know, I think often it would only come up if in certain things like education, you might notice of them struggling, or sometimes I used to compare myself with certain people of they were excelling, and it's like, why am I not? And you would start notice certain people who were struggling with the same things you were, but you didn't quite know why, I think. Or the big thing that used to be the joke of back in that high school, they would get extra time. So if you're like dyslexic or dyspraxic, you would get extra time in your exams. And I always remember, I was like, damn it, I wish I got a bit more extra time just to finish off my writing. And my friend, he was dyslexic, and he would always, you know, take the mick and be like, I get 15 more minutes. I'm like, damn it, I wish I did. So it was never kind of an issue. I think people who I was around with, you just kind of accepted it. And, you know, a lot of the people who did have, they would just kind of make a joke of it, or it was just them. It was never kind of a thing. So I never saw it as like a negative thing, or it was always just, you know, noticing different people's struggles at certain points, going, if I can help, and, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully, as you can probably tell, I waffle on and probably haven't answered the question, but yeah.
No, you're fine. So basically, you got diagnosed sort of after pretty much towards the end of your education, really.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really spotted. The signs weren't spotted in yourself for quite a long time. So did you think that you masked it quite well, like not knowing, obviously that you was neurodivergent, or did the education system sort of fail you in that respect, and they didn't spot it sooner?
I don't know, really. I think I just masked it. I think one of the big things they told me is when they were identifying if I had something, I had to do a couple extra bits, because they were like, we think you are, but you still kind of get around it. It was kind of like the, is she, isn't she? And I think that's partly for me to do with repetition. So as I've grown up, it was always anything. If it was sports, well, say for example, sports, if I wasn't good at something, say if like I kept, you know, mucking up throwing the ball to someone, it was all about just keep doing it over and over again. And it was the same with anything learning wise. If I couldn't remember something, just learn it over, just keep writing it, keep learning it, keep thinking it. And I think for me, that may have been a massive thing that helped me improve or assess, as you say, cover it. And I found my coping mechanism. But with anything that's more like speech and stuff, I think people just thought it was me. And I've just always thought it was me. I never thought it was something else. Like, for example, with my family, often when I talk about stuff, I may say the wrong word, but my intention is another word. And I've done this since I was little. You know, it would be like, an example, actually, one I used to say when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, I'm trying to be specific. But instead of saying specific, I would say, oh, I'm just being Pacific. And they would giggle and laugh because they think, you know, I've just got the wrong word. But I would so believe it's that word, but thinking it was the other one, if that makes sense. But we just called it Gemmaism. Like, they were like, oh, you're just having a Gemmaism moment. Not knowing. It was just a harmless thing of like, oh, she's having a Gemmaism moment, you know, just harmless. But when it obviously did come to light, I think my parents probably did feel a bit bad of not noticing. But it's not like I immensely struggled, just because I always saw things as more of a challenge and trying accomplishment. And I think it must have just mixed in with my personality, I think. I don't think anyone saw that I was immensely struggling, because I did have a lot of support to help me when I was struggling. So maybe that's what made people not realise that I was, you know, dyslexia or dyspraxic or anything, because I just needed extra time to learn things. I just, you know, instead of having a week to do something, I needed 2 weeks. So I think that might be for me how it just got covered up of like, it's just, you know, my memory might be bad, or I'm too distracted and all over the place, I'm not focusing, sort of thing. So it may have just been that for me. I wouldn't say it failed, because I did like do all right in my education, but I think, as I said, that was a lot to do with my family and friends around me being there helping. an aid in me when I did. I think if I didn't have that support network, then yes, I think it would have been completely different. I would have really struggled. And of course, when I found out, I was like, I wish I knew this before, because some of my grades could have been better, you know, through my first year, second year, or even in high school. I could have got those extra grades because of my written work was always pulling me down. But I think I just accepted it. I was like, you know, I can't change it. There's nothing I could do. I know now. And luckily it helped me in my most needed year of my final year university. I was like, I'll take it. As, you know, just run with it now and just not be too hung up on it, because as you say, there's nothing you can do about it now.
Definitely, and I know where you're coming from in that respect, because although it's you're the guest, that I don't like to talk about myself all the time.
No, of course, I like finding out about people.
But I've mentioned this before on the other episodes, but I only found out I was dyslexic about 3 years ago, and although I've known I was dyspraxic since the age of 4, I felt like if I had known that I was dyslexic throughout school, that would have primarily helped me in my education more than knowing if I was dyspraxic or not, in the respect that, like, my handwriting or my spelling or, you know, the way I came across would have been, I would have had the right help.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to be. But in terms of being treated differently, I don't feel like it played a part, so I can't complain in that respect. So that brings me on to my next question then. So did you ever feel different growing up, considering you only found out that you were neurodivergent at university? Did you ever notice anything particularly different about yourself that, compared to your peers that were probably excelling in their like education, compared to how you might have felt like you was a bit behind?
Yeah, I think I always just thought, as harsh as it sounds, and I was a bit brutal on myself. And you shouldn't say this about yourself, but I definitely thought I was a bit stupid. I just thought I wasn't as intellectual. I used to joke, I was like, all the knowledge went to my brother. He took it all up and I didn't get any. And yeah, I think I did feel like I was always behind a bit on, you know, the smart meter, and I always thought I wish I was a bit smarter or understood things a bit more, like with maths or something, for example. I just couldn't understand how some people would just get it like that, and it blew my mind, and it definitely frustrated me at times, because it is hard, you know, you don't want to fail. And yeah, I did find it hard, and I did compare myself a lot, especially in high school, when the classes were always divided in like the lower class, the middle class, the higher, and then there was also like an even higher one, like an extra one. And I'm like, well, why am I not in there? Like, you know, why don't they give me a chance? But I did get frustrated with that. But again, I was quite lucky that it never really got pointed out. I always had kind of someone, I always kind of picked someone in each class who was like my friend, and just they'll be my support system. Or if we struggled together. And if I would get something they didn't, I would help them. If they did, like, and vice versa. And also I think I kind of just got confidence after a while to be like what's this art, like what is this, what's that? And yeah, I think just speaking up kind of helped, getting that confidence to just put your hand up when you didn't understand, because for so long I just wouldn't put my hand up, because it would always just be me being like, wait, what was that? I don't get that, explain that. And you don't want to come across, you know, you don't want to be the stupid one, as harsh as it sounds. You know, people can be brutal when you're growing up, and I didn't want that. And yeah, I did compare myself a lot. But as I kind of went more into like college and things like that, if I didn't understand, I would just put my hand up, because I'd be like, well, I might, even though I'm thinking it, someone else might be thinking it. So I would just take the blunt of it, be like, wait, no, what? I did not get that. And there'll be so many times when they'll explain it to me over and over again, and you can tell they're getting frustrated. And yes, some people might be giggling, but I'm like, well, I don't get it. It's my learning experience as well. And, you know, I need to understand it, because it frustrated me as well. It's like, I'm not getting it. So, yeah, I definitely compare myself a lot, but luckily I didn't really get pointed out it too much. I think, again, people just kind of thought it was me. They might have thought other things, but I think I just kind of, I was quite just like ignore it. I just kind of ignore people's like opinions if it was quite negative, and because I have my friends who'd be like, oh, who cares, I'll help you, and you're like, cool. It
So
might be bad, but you breeze along.
Definitely. So did you find then that when you got the diagnosis for dyslexia and dyspraxia and visual stress, that your Gemmerisms were no longer Gemmerisms, they were actually more generic than you thought? Like other people had shared sort of the same traits as you, that you didn't realise that at the time? Or do you feel like they're unique to you rather than shared with other people? You still
Oh no, I think it did explain a lot for me. Like,
Yeah.
it was a sense of relief, to be completely honest, because I was, you know, I was quite brutal myself, and I thought it was me just not being clever enough or having enough focus, or, you know, being lazy and things like that, even though I may have not been, and compared to other people I wasn't. To me, I was too brutal on myself and thinking I just wasn't good enough, or I just, you know, wasn't doing enough. So it was 100% a relief, and it definitely explained a lot of things. And it's helped. And don't get me wrong, I still have my Gemmerisms. I still say stuff, and my family just think it's endearing and funny. And if I say it in like a professional way, I'm kind of like, wait, because sometimes, you know, when you say something and then you know it's not the right word, and you're like, it didn't sound right. And they give you that look. They're like, okay. And you're like, okay, if that's the wrong word, just tell me. Like, I've probably just mucked up on my words. So I just embrace it now, like, because I know that I say things wrong, or I get kind of muddled up. Even when I'm relaxed or stressed, it doesn't matter what condition, I still get it. And, you know, I think especially friends, they just kind of accept it. If I get an idea and I'm like, oh, and I can't get it out, and they're like, give her a minute, she needs a minute, she's got an idea, just give her a second. I'm like, okay, and trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, or I say something like, my other half is always like, you meant this, but I know what you mean. It's like, it's quite nice that now it's not a problem. And yeah, as I say, I just kind of accept that it's also a part of me, and some things that may not be the you know, the learning difficulties, it probably is just me, but that's just my personality. I'm saying, but it was a massive relief thinking, you know, it's not all just kind of in my head, and it's not me not putting enough work in and effort in. And that was quite nice. Of course, I would have wished I got help before. Of course, there is a part of me going, oh, damn it, if I only had it then. But yeah, better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So that takes me to my next question, in respect that you sort of learned that you had these hidden disabilities, and then you kind of go, like, in hindsight, you're like, well, I wish I'd known sooner, but it is what it is. And then, so you're given the diagnosis like in your second year at university. How satisfactory did you find the support and aftercare, given or not given, when you found out that you was neurodivergent? And also, did it come to your aid, and were you able to benefit from that new diagnosis?
So when I found out, they were pretty on top of it, my university, in the sense of helping. So I'm assuming most of the people got it as well, but I got obviously essentially free stuff to help me, you know, from learning from home, because I always found it quite hard to focus and things in like the library. Most of my friends would be fine being in their little groups and writing the essays and things like that in the library. And I would always find it so hard because there's so many voices, and I'll get distracted visually, and I'll, you know, even though I'm looking at a screen, I would see something in the corner of my eye, and it would drive me mad. So when they were like, what do you need? I was kind of like, I just need things to help me at home. And, you know, being young, and at the time they're like, okay, here's a printer. And I'm like, cool, sweet, free stuff, woo. And, you know, you just kind of take it as it is. But the things that did kind of help me was like the coloured papers. I definitely didn't jump on it enough. I think I should have made the most of some of it. But the main thing, when I found out, I was just like, I just need someone to help me with my written work. I was like, I just need someone to essentially proofread it. And that was my main goal. and I did have someone to help me. I had this lady who pretty much helped me throughout my whole last year of university, and it was amazing. Like, the main one I had was my dissertation. I had a written paper, and I've always dreaded writing. Like, even though I would get my work done a week or two prior to deadline and everyone would be like, oh, you've already done it, it never meant that it was good. It's just because I would have to spend so much time beforehand prepping and making sure I got it done, because otherwise I'll just stress out. And when I know that I have something to do, I just want to get it done. So it really helped with the support. So when I would see her once a week for like an hour or two, I would just bring my writing, wherever it was. For example, it was mainly my dissertation, because I really didn't want to flunk on it because it was quite a high percentage in my final year. And she would just help me go through it. So that really helped my writing. It pretty much brought my writing up from, like, I was starting to get like D's and E's, and it brought me up to like, I think it was something like that. And then it brought me up to like A's and being a first. Like, I'd never thought that I would get a first on a written paper, because I struggled so much in my first and second year. I was just so chuffed, and I actually started to enjoy writing and going through it. Because when I was younger, whenever my dad would go through my written work, for example, I would just get stressed and angry and emotional, because when he would read something out, he would just read the sentence out, like, what's wrong with it? I'm like, I don't know, it sounds fine. And he'd be like, read it again. And I'm like, it sounds fine. And the more that happened, he's just trying to make me understand my own faults. But because I wasn't understanding, I wasn't seeing those faults, because to me it looked normal, I would get so frustrated and so upset. And it was probably the only time that I would butt heads with my dad, because I would just get so angry and bottle up. And it happened all the time. It got to a point where I would just send it to him, because it was just, I would just get too worked up about going through the written paper and getting upset that I couldn't see the problem with it and felt stupid and things like that. And I just kind of parred it off as like, okay, it might just be a family thing. You just get frustrated with your parents. It might just be that. But then when my boyfriend had a look over one of my papers in my second year before I'd done the test, the same thing started to happen again. He'd be like, okay, read it out. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Cool. They're like, no, don't you see it? And it even got to a point where we almost had an argument. I never argue with like other halves. And I was like, okay, maybe something is wrong, because I shouldn't be getting this upset and worked up and not seeing this apparently obvious problem with my writing. So yeah, once I got that, and I was so worried that I would have the same issue with the lady who was helping me. Luckily, I just kind of, because I knew it was something and it wasn't me, I just kind of let it go and I accepted it. And when I would be like, I genuinely don't understand, and before getting to the point of getting upset or angry, she would just be like, no, this is what it is, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of made me love the experience, really, because she was like, you do have a great paper. It's just all little bits all muddled up, and, sentences go on for years and things like that. So, yeah, it mainly helped me with my final year. And I was beyond grateful. I was like, if it needed to happen, that was the year it needed. And yeah, I'm grateful it did. I'm sure there was probably other stuff I could have got the aid with it, and it might have benefited. I didn't look for it, because I was just so focused on, I need my writing to be better. That's all that matters to me. That's all that I want help with. But yeah, but I do have friends who have had help consistently since they were younger, and it's definitely helped them. So I just hope that more people kind of do get diagnosed earlier, because as you say, the later on you do think of if only I had it then, if only this, if only that. So yeah, it would have been nice if I had it diagnosed earlier, but I'm just glad it's done, and I needed it when I did. I think if I didn't get the help in uni, and it was like now, for example, I got diagnosed, I would be frustrated that I didn't get a better grade. But then again, I was very revolved around grades and getting the highest grades. And now it's like, it's not all about that, So I think getting diagnosed later on, it kind of made me just appreciate not appreciate, but like value the important things, and it's not all about grades. You know, life isn't all about grades in education, and it's more than that. So I think that definitely helped me kind of deal with it and process it, I'd say.
Sure. So did you get the desired outcome that you wanted then with that newfound help and accept like tools and stuff to help you learn?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely helped. In the sense of like just starting to process my writing and looking over it and the structure and things like that, and just the kind of the preparation beforehand, and definitely helped with that. And things that I've adapted to it now, like the coloured filters, they really help me still now. I get very overwhelmed with like massives of text and scripts and things like that, which is ironic because my career completely revolves around a script.
Yeah.
And when people are like, "Oh, do you enjoy reading scripts?" I'm like, "No, I hate it." And it's not because I don't enjoy learning about it and, you know, discovering it. It's the initial thing of seeing the amount of text, and it's just overwhelming. So things that I've kind of used to help me is like colored glasses. I found some on Amazon. Hopefully they help. I don't know if they do, but they're like yellow filtered ones. I have them on my desk actually, and I use them on the computer and things like that when I'm like editing or any sort of thing, just to kind of give me the sense of just calmness, a bit of relief, being like, this is helping, and to not focus on stressing about certain things. That's definitely helped me nowadays, and that's probably one of the things that I use the most. On Word, I love like the text to speech, because I always find often when I read something, I won't understand it until after I've read it or after it's been said. So having like it spoken has really helped me kind of hear it and then also see it. And it's just kind of that, having both those things aid a bit. So yeah, some of the stuff has helped. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff that can help out there that I probably haven't discovered. But those two kind of things, I think, definitely make a bit of a difference now. And as I said, just giving myself time to look over it, to process whatever the information is, and just read it over and over and over again. I still make mistakes. I still muck up sometimes and read things wrong or misunderstand something. But I just try and do as much preparation as I can to avoid that, essentially. And I think that's my way of coping with it. Or if I do get overwhelmed in a situation or just not understanding it or something, just take myself away from it for a bit and let myself calm down, because, you know, nothing's going to be resolved in an emotional state. So I give myself time, I think, just to process and relax and take it in.
Sure. So do you find that in your line of work, your class is self-employed, would you say?
Yeah, so I am self-employed.
So how do you go about getting reasonable adjustments if, say, for instance, reading a load of script was like, when you're acting or when you're voiceovers, etc., it was too much for you? Because there is now the ability to, say, do things like with audio, like instead of reading a book, you can now have it played in your ear, like Amazon do, for instance. Like, how would you prefer, for instance, to have that playing into your ear rather than to read it? Would that be of benefit to you, or would that be more of a hindrance?
Oh, 100%. Like, that's why I kind of use Word. As much as it obviously sounds a bit robotic, it still helps me form it all together. I think for me, even though I'm very much a visual learner, when it comes to like text and things like that, it's just too much. So having that audio aspect 100% helps me, and it keeps me a bit more engaged. So yeah, I think with like the self-employed stuff, initially it was all very overwhelming for me, but I think that was also just me. It wasn't anything to do with all of it. But I just tried to find help with it. So as you say, there's obviously lots of different things to kind of aid it. I think that definitely helps with me personally, of having options instead of just one thing that you have to do, in the sense of you can only read it. If there was other things, it definitely helps. Or yeah, 100%. I think that definitely helps. Like, for what also helps me is you know, I love watching films and things like that. I like watching anime. And instead of just automatically pressing English dub, because it's not as good sometimes, having the visual kind of the subtitles as well really kind of helps me with my reading, because I am bad. I don't enjoy reading books. I find it the most stressful thing is like just chilling reading a book. I don't like it. That's why I like comic books and things like that, because you have the visual picture. And it sounds silly, but having other options of learning stuff and also just forcing yourself a bit, but in a way that you enjoy, 100% helps. So yeah, so having audio kind of aid and stuff, I think is a lot nicer, or like the different kind of text colors and fonts and things like that. I think they are very good.
Brilliant. There's two things I want to go back on, because I'm intrigued by when you said about how you was grateful that you got diagnosed at college, university rather, because I feel like there's a common consensus in the fact that university and college tend to be, in my opinion, where most people are, like in the neurodivergency scene, seem to get diagnosed. It's like that seems to be the best place that people actually want to help, and they spot the signs. I think it's because you're not so naive and young, but you're not so old and like mumbly. You know, you sort of in your infancy still, but not, you know, you're not past it, but you still, you know, you're bursting with life. And I think people sort of see that energy and they go, hang on, what, you know, let's harness that energy. And then they go, how can we help you? And I think that's the best place for people to get help. So I've said this in my other episodes. I feel like if people are listening and they're at a stage in their life where they're at college and university, but they think they've got, say, dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, Asperger's, best thing they can do is go to their education support team at their place of education and ask for help, because I feel like that's probably their best chance of getting support before they go out into the open world of employment, where it's more of a struggle to get that support.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's just, as you say, I think the reason why a lot of people may discover it a bit more in the kind of university or college stage, I think it's also because that's when you start to decide what you want to do as a person.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're not so scheduled into, you know, the basic stuff that you need to learn. When you start to do what you want to do, I think that's when you get your motivation and goal as a person to be like, well, I want this help, I want to do this or that. And I think that, as you say, that's when you discover it most, because for me, I knew what I wanted to do and my goal. So I was like, I need to find out what can help me. You start to look for things yourself instead of being just given it. And I think that's the big difference of anything is starting to seek things for yourself and just learning to ask, to ask for the help, because there's always something, even if you don't go to university or drama schools or anything and don't have that aid and that support that they have, there's so much out there to help anyone with anything. Like, for example, what I'm discovering, so in this lockdown, everything's pretty much gone online. You know, a lot of the acting communities are all online and trying to network and social. And I never realized how much support there is, just people giving support to one another of things they might be struggling with, and just talking about it, whatever it is. We all have our struggles, whatever, despite what career you do. There's always going to be something that we struggle with, and obviously having a learning difficulty, it does add a bit more. When you are struggling, it is a bit of an extra struggle, as you could say. And I just think it's so good that there are so much support out there, and I think people just need to find that confidence to ask and to seek and spend that time looking to what can help you. And what can help you in that situation, because there's always something or someone who will help you. And if you can't find it, turn to family members or someone who may know it, And that's why I think online kind of platforms are so beneficial at the moment for things like that, because it's so easy to find that support, because you can just Google it, And turn into any support systems that you might have, whether it be universities, college, family members you might know, friends. There is so much there to help you, and people wanting to help. I think it's amazing. And I think, just finding that confidence to speak up and saying, I'm struggling, I'm not doing very well, and I need help with it. And once you accept that it's okay, and it doesn't make you any less or any smarter or anything, is once you put that aside, because it's not your fault, but it doesn't mean that you still can't get help, and people still treat you with the right respect, and and get the job done, whatever it is that you needed done, really.
Definitely, nicely said. I like that. That's very well said. That's gonna hopefully help a lot of people, follow like in our footsteps in the years to come when they go through the education system, and they're going to approach the workplace, and they're going to go and want to know how to go about doing stuff, and that's summed it up nicely.
100%. Hopefully, it does help more people.
Definitely, that's the reason why I'm doing this now. I think if I don't feel like I've got much to offer, but I feel like if I could just give somebody a bit of knowledge as to what I didn't know, and like yourself, what you didn't know, what you know now. Kind of give them that little bit of a platform to take a leap forward.
Yeah, and learn from mistakes and things like that, or learn from different people's experiences, and going, I think that's such a key thing of an individual, is learning from other people and taking it how you want, wherever it may be, and running with it. It's always good.
Definitely. So, would you ever say then that you've ever found your dyspraxia daunting, or have you embraced it?
I think I have found it daunting. I think obviously before I knew, I've found that I may have not spoken up or said certain things on my views or opinions, because I may have just thought I was a bit, not as smart as everyone else. So it may have held me back in some of those ways, or I didn't have the confidence because I knew I wasn't good at certain things. But since knowing, of course, it still obviously gets in the way. I think one of the biggest things I always get very nervous about is, like, for me, is networking events, and anything that's industry wise, and they will say you need to come across as professional and well spoken, and you meet people who are so well spoken and they just sound so smart, and of course I get intimidated sometimes, because it's not their fault, but it's just me getting too much in my own mind of, like, I'm not clever enough, I can't articulate the way you can, and it still gets me nervous sometimes, and not wanting to go to certain events and meeting certain people just because of my own nerves. But as I said, I think it's just kind of trying to embrace it and accept it. Like, you can only be you, and I wouldn't change anything, because you shouldn't have to change anything. If they like you for who you are, that's the most important thing. As long as I'm being myself and trying your best, or whatever it may be, and trying to be professional, but you can still be you don't have to be fake. And I think for me, it's a lot of just talking myself around it and giving myself the motivation of, like, it doesn't matter, you may have certain setbacks, and especially like auditions and things like that, like face-to-face stuff. Oh my god, I get so mumbled, and like they will ask a simple question, and as you probably know, I go on and on and on and on, and I don't know when to stop. And I think, will it affect my chance and opportunity, because I may not come across like I know what I'm saying or done my research, but it's actually just the fact of I'm stressing so much that I just can't get out. So yeah, it still does worry me with certain things and how maybe I'm perceived and come across. But like I said, I think just sometimes because I slowly build up my confidence and, try and reassure yourself that you are good at what you do and you can only do as good as you can and be yourself. And if it's not good enough, that's fine. It's not a personal attack, and just letting things go. I think one of the biggest things I try to do is just let it go, especially with like the acting world. You get a lot of rejections and turn downs, and you do start to get stuck in your own head and think, is it because of this, that, and it's so easy to do, and it's fine to do that every now and again, because it's always good to to assess and reflect. But with like the learning difficulties, I don't let it get in the way, because I don't see it as a bad thing. I just try and see it as like it's just a bit more of a challenge at certain points, and I just work through it. And as I said, I don't see it as like a side thing. I just see it as a part of me. As I say with like the Gemmaism, I just accept it, try and accept it as me, and that's my personality. And yeah, I may struggle a bit more than other people in certain aspects, or go around it the long way or not the best way, but that's my learning process, and that's my journey, and just to embrace it and enjoy it.
Nice. So what day-to-day coping strategies then do you use for dyspraxia, especially when it comes to acting or doing voiceovers and modelling and stunt performing, coordinating stunts, etc.?
So I think with anything kind of physical, it's just kind of talking yourself around it. But at the same time, I find it hard to pinpoint certain things that I can say that the learning difficulties come into play, because I don't really identify specific things associated with specific things, if that makes sense. Because sure. I think, because obviously I found out so late, I didn't know because you struggle specifically in this, and this, and this, and it's because of that and that. It blends so much for me, because maybe I haven't done enough research, I don't know. But for me, it's a lot of just talking through it, or just shutting your brain off, especially anything physical. It's just not overthinking and getting too wrapped up in my own head. I find it very easy to, and that's when I'll probably fluster or get something wrong, especially with lines. I think if you've done a preparation, it will pay off, and it's just trying to make sure that you're in a calm state, or use those nerves as energy to propel you, and to keep you going. I think that helps with that sort of side. With voiceover, I find it quite calm in doing it at home. I do it here in my studio, and having that kind of just relaxed environment allows me not to stress out and let anything kind of creep up and overwhelm me and get too much. And with acting, to be fair, like, as much as I say scripts and stuff overwhelm me, I quite enjoy having the scripts, because it's someone else's words. I don't have to worry about my own structure of words and if it comes out right or sounds weird or I've said the wrong word. Because I'm learning someone else's words, it takes that pressure off a bit for me. Some people enjoy having the freedom of, improvising. Of course you do at times. But for me, I enjoy having the words, and I try to stick to it as much as I can, because once I've learned it, I can then just enjoy myself in the scene and, essentially explore the character and what they're feeling. And I don't have the thing in the back of my head being like, oh, does that sound right? Did you go on too much? This, that, all those little voices in your head. And I can just be like, no, this is what it is. I'm creating something that someone else is doing, and a collaboration, and it 100% helps with that sort of stuff. And as I say, it's just getting out of my own head and just be like, ignore those little things.
Definitely. So, Dyspraxic Help for You Women account on Twitter asks the following: more men than women have a diagnosis of dyspraxia, and that of the women who are diagnosed, they are more likely to receive their diagnosis over the age of 18 than their male counterparts. There is a lot of speculation as to why this might be, but it seems that many dyspraxic women are missing out on the same opportunities as their male counterparts due to a lack of recognition or support. Knowing this information, how does it make you feel, or do you think you would have benefited from early intervention, and what do you think needs to occur to increase the recognition and support for dyspraxic women?
So, reacting to it, I didn't know that. I think I've always been aware that especially in the younger kind of children, as far as like I know, in my previous schools, there was always a lot more boys in the learner difficulty classes. And as far as I know and what I've been told and what I've heard, they've always said it's partially to do with it's harder to identify in women because it's so much more complex. But I think if nowadays, if that's identified, that it is harder to, discover in women and young girls and things like that, they may just need more support and more research into discovering it for women, and more people to invest in taking the time to discover it. I think because it is important. It's so important for any child. It doesn't matter what gender you are. If you need help, you need help. And if a kid's struggling, they should get the aid. So yeah, it is surprising, but I understand it because I have heard it. Most of the time women are identified with learning difficulties older. But yeah, I think there just needs to be more research and maybe just more time spent in learning why it's harder to identify in women, and let's make a difference. Let's make a change. Let's work on it so more younger women and more men can find it out earlier and get the support they needed through their education to succeed and not feel like it's them struggling or have the kind of insecurities that I may have had and other people have had. I think we just need to work on it, and hopefully more school systems. I'm not 100% sure who it all goes through, but whoever they are, they need to maybe step on it a bit more. And if they need help to fund it and research it and organise it, there needs to be more awareness to push it. I think it's if say for example we struggle and we got it later on, maybe now I'm aware that maybe I need to push it more, and that more children do need to get that support that they need. But it's very interesting though. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is interesting and well said. I totally agree. So how did you get into the industry that you're in now then? Did it come to you? Obviously you wanted to do it, I guess, from a young age because you went to college, university, and performance and acting. And did you always have dreams of doing that when you were younger, or did that come to you kind of late in the teenage years, the idea of getting into the industry?
So I always thought I wanted to do it when in like high school, when I was about 14, 15. But apparently my mum did say when I was younger that I wanted to be Hermione. So obviously, as I said, I was quite obsessed with Harry Potter. And she'd be like, oh, you want to be an actor? I'm like, no, I want to be Hermione. I'm going to be Emma Watson. I'm going to be Hermione. So I think maybe I kind of wanted to do it back then, but taking it seriously, it was 100% when I was like 14, 15 of getting that buzz, being on the stage. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do, and just pursuing it and working hard. I didn't essentially have any leeway into the industry, and I'm still working on that now, but that is partially to do with, the real, just being aware that some people do have a gateway into the industry because of connections they have, or certain family members might have, be in the industry, and none of my family are. But instead of letting that stop me and get me down, I'm trying to pave my own way. And yes, I'm aware that it might take longer because I don't have those extra bits to help me in. I am working a long way essentially, but it's just all about working hard and determination. I think, like anything, if you want something hard enough, want something so much, you will put time and effort in to make your way into it and succeed. And I think for me overall, it's just feeling fulfilled. I just want to feel fulfilled and happy that I've done as much as I can and successful in my own way. It doesn't have to be to the extent of certain things. Of course, I have dreams and ambitions and goals, but yeah, I think with any industry, it's just about working hard and, you know, not letting other people's opinions or views stop you from doing what you want to do. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's been the quickest way into the industry, and I'm still not there, but that's just how it is, I guess. And as I said, just trying to enjoy the process, because I may look back at this in 5-10 years and being like, that was a great time, and that was when everything changed, or where, you know, I found myself more and things like that. So I try to take it like that, of it's just how it is. Don't compare yourself to everyone else, because that's when it gets you down.
You say about playing the long game, but I feel like playing the long game, when you get to that destination where you want to be, I feel like you'll be more enriched and you'll savour the moment more. It'll mean more, and having done it all yourself, it'll be a bigger achievement. So, you know, there's a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, as I say.
Exactly, yeah, 100%. I think also, you know, some people who maybe make it so early, they might regret that for, you know, because it's like, I didn't go through the learning process of, you know, I'm so judgmental of my performances, and in a sense I'm relieved that maybe I didn't make it a couple of years ago, or how many years ago when I was younger, because when I look back at some of my work, I'm like, oh my God, it's awful. And I might think the same thing a couple of years time from here. So I think, as much as I say it's just the long route, as you say, it's more time for me to learn and grow and develop my craft. So then hopefully when I do get that big opportunity, I'm like, thank God I spent all that time mucking up, or, you know, not thinking I was good enough or improving, because now I'm making the most of the opportunity now and giving it everything. And as you say, taking all that knowledge, putting it straight in there.
Definitely. I mean, if you think about it, no one ever says, look, who remembers the Marlon Brando when he was 20? No one ever says that. They always say, look at Marlon Brando when he was 60. No one, you know.
Exactly. Age is not an issue.
No, look, you know, no one ever says, oh, who remembers like the 20-year-old Laurence Olivier? Nobody. It's always the Laurence Olivier when he was 50 or 60. You know?
Exactly, when they made something good, when they made a difference.
Yeah. Same for Dame Judi Dench. I don't think nobody can recall what she did 40, 50 years ago, but everyone knows her as M from James Bond, or,
yeah,
you know.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. It's all what they do with their time that makes the difference.
Play the long game. That's the best way to go. Play the long game. So, as a dyspraxic then, how did you ever begin to get to grips with performing and coordinating stunts? Surely that would be the wrong kind of job for dyspraxic in terms of being clumsy, etc., the usual stereotypes. How did you, you know, I want to use the word, and I'm using it as a pun here. How did you wing that one?
I think that probably all came into play as a kid. Like I said, my family have always been very adventurous and try new things. And I just kind of got obsessed with adrenaline and doing adventurous and fun things. I just thrived off it. And I think that kind of comes into play with stunts and combat and things like that. As much as I may get stressed in not maybe retaining it as quick, like I said, I think what's helped me so much is all the repetition throughout my life, depending on what it is and what I still implement now. Repetition is so key, and especially I think for someone with a learner difficulty, because it allows you to just process and retain it, and that's definitely helped for me, I think. And like I say, just being like, oh, can we go through it again? Can we practice that bit again? And just working through it step by step, and then retaining it a lot easier. And just giving it all what you got. Like, I'm still learning a lot with stunts. I'm still so new to it because I am predominantly an actor. And the team that I'm with, they're so understanding. So I'm like, wait, can we just do that bit again? Because I didn't get it. Or you're about to do something, you're like, oh, wait, no, that wasn't it. Okay, cool. But because you learn the fundamentals and the safety, I think that really helps, because if I'm not ready for something, they will know. And if I blanked, or I'm like, I have no idea what we're doing, they they can read it and they will know. So yeah, that's definitely helped. And I'm still clumsy. I'm so clumsy. It's like sometimes I joke around with it with my friends and things like that, of like, you will see something right in front of you, like a door frame, but I'll still walk into it, even though in my mind I'm like, yeah, I'll walk around it. Still happens all the time. I think it's just, for me, trying to really focus and give it 110% when I am performing anything that is a bit of a higher risk, or even just scripts and things like that. It's just giving it my all and try and focus as much as I can to hopefully not slip up and muck up. But then also, I think it's also just remembering that we're all human. Loads of people make mistakes, you know. Like, you can learn a script so well and then still completely blank and have no idea. And just accepting that it's a workplace and you do sometimes have the time and to redo it or just start again. I think the biggest thing that's helped me is, if I really am getting mumbled and like flustered and freaking out, it's just, sometimes you do have the luxury in the scene to just stop and then start that line again. You know, if I've mumbled the first and second letter around, or, you know, when you have like two words and you flip around like the first letter, I do that all the time. So I think knowing that you're safe in the environment and being able to essentially have those fails and just keep going, and I think that really helps, especially for me with acting and stunts and things like that, is there is a reset button, because it is, you know, it is a performance, it is entertainment, and you can sometimes go with it. But whereas if you're on theatre and you do fumble, you just have to roll with it. You can't go, hold on a minute, stop there, I mucked up on that word, because most people are like, oh, I didn't realise, or if it's something physical, you did accidentally make contact and hit someone, you're like, just go with it, keep going. So yeah, it's just working with it, I think, and feeling safe and comfortable in the environment, whatever you're doing, that you might have that room to muck up. Obviously, if it is something a lot more serious and dangerous, you obviously you don't want to muck up. So yeah, I think for me, it's just giving it 110%, being as focused and prepared as you can, and making the most of every moment. As for me on set, if you do have 10 minutes, you're like, can we just quickly go through that again? Can we quickly drill that? Or if it's just me, I'm like, okay, these are my lines, and have cues or certain triggers that will make me remind it. Actually, one of the biggest things that does help is being physical. Like, a lot of the time when you are sitting down learning a script, for me, I won't remember it that well. There's a certain point that I just need to get up and start doing it. And if there are certain, obviously it depends on what character, but say for example, there are certain movements at this point when you're waving, you have to say this line. Those physical cues and actions definitely help me remember stuff and aid when I am struggling, of like, I can't remember it, or, you know, anything like that. So that definitely helps me personally, I'd say.
Nice. So you've appeared as a supporting artist in hit shows such as Black Mirror, Drifters, and Hannah. Did you enjoy working on those, or was that yeah? Did you find them quite relaxing as well, or at any point was it stressful?
Oh, I just love it. I think so. When you start to get into like supporting artist work, I think it's so relaxing, because you don't have the stress of lines and such, like the pressure of maybe being the lead or supporting and things like that. Because I love just being on set and being around in the environment, I just thrive off it. Because Black Mirror was the first thing I ever done screen-wise. And am I seen in it? No. But I was there, I experienced it, and as I say, I got the bug. I got obsessed with it. And I think when you're in your environment and what makes you happy and fulfilled, I think sometimes those things that normally do get in the way in normal kind of circumstances, for me, they don't really tend to get in the way too much, because I am in my element and I'm just loving life. And I think, yeah, it just doesn't happen as much. But whereas if I'm in more of an uncomfortable state or stressed or got other things in my mind, then of course it will stress me out. I don't say you just turn what was I say? You turn your nerves into excitement, and that's definitely what I try to do. And when I'm on set, if you are kind of freaking out, a little bit. I turn it more into a buzz. I'm like, oh, I'm on this program. Like, even if you're just in the background chilling, you're like, cool. You just love it.
I'm getting that buzzing feeling from you, because from reading, like, doing my research into your backstory and your career, and from what you've told me previously, like you've even provided production assistance at Pinewood Studios, which is the home to the James Bond franchise. Like, you really want to be around that kind of environment. It kind of, you feel comfortable in that sort of scene, don't you? Kind of, that's where you're at your element.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just try and get involved in as much as I can. And just getting so the company obviously I work with, like, so they're on Pinewood lot, and when they gave me the opportunity to come along and like assist, because I never done anything behind camera, briefly at uni, but I was just like, cool, I'm just eager to learn. And I think when you have that mindset of whatever, if you found the thing that you love, I think you naturally kind of give that. And for me, it's just more excitement. And I'm like, okay, cool, let me do something, let me get stuck into it. And I just thrive off it. Yeah, I think whenever I think about it, it does give me that buzz, and it still gives me that buzz. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that I found my passion and the thing that truly is for me and that I love, depending what kind of creative path it is. And that's why when people are like, how do you do all those things? It's like, why? I see it more as being a performer. You can do those different things. Of course, it's always good to be having your path in the one thing, but at the same time, there's still nothing stopping you learning new things. And I think that's also what I enjoy, is just learning, being on set, and whatever it might be, in front or behind the camera. I'm just obsessed with it. I love it so much. It's just, yeah, it's me in my element. And fortunately, when I get to do it, my insecurities and things like that don't come in too much, because, as I say, I'm too woo. Because when I come back from stuff, I'm like, oh my god, I've done this, and that. And I'm just buzzing off it. So yeah, finding your passion and the thing that you love, or discovering it, is one of the best things, because you start to see what you love and don't love, and you go, okay, no, I'm not doing that again, and so forth.
Ah, lovely, nice one. So you also discovered that you've got a knack for accents, and you do voiceover material for a living. You've additionally got your own voice recording studio, as you mentioned earlier, in the comfort of your own home. What kind of voiceover work do you prefer doing most? Because you do video games, you do adverts, you do all sorts. So, but what sort of rocks your boat? What rocks your boat in that regard? Sorry.
I think I do love all of them, but I think I love the video games, just because of the fact that, like, it's a video game, right? That's so cool. But for character wise, I enjoy delving into a bit of a character and the backstory. Like, I'm okay at some accents, I'm still working on it. With me, I always try like to perfect it. Well, with accents, I want it to be as good as it can be, and I'm very hesitant on just doing something off the cuff, because I want it to sound good. So having the time to develop and practice of the cover of my home, and if this sounds completely bad, then it's like, cool, I can just redo it. And as I say, it's just repetition, just keep doing it, and the more I do it, the more I find my method and how I do it. But I 100% love video games, because I enjoy delving into the character of it, and just kind of, when you start to kind of imagine, for me, when I imagine what they've been through or where they're at, and the physicalization of it, I just enjoy just playing with the character and whatever it might be. But of course, I enjoy doing the adverts and stuff and commercial wise, but I love the character wise, and that's why I love the aspect of motion capture as well, and just so fascinated, because the voice and the physicalization it's just so cool. And I think that's what keeps me interested in it. I love the characterizations and delving more into that avenue, because it can literally go anywhere.
You're also the you're the voice of the title character in the action adventure game Pandora. How did that come about? And I've watched a bit of it, and or played a bit of it. It's quite addictive, but how did that come about? And is that going to be like an ongoing thing, or is that going to branch out into something else? Or
Well, I don't know, to be honest. So it's funny because it's just come out, and I believe that we're still working on it. We still got a few more bits because it is independent created. It obviously has taken time. I think I've been working on it for like 3 years now, but that's mainly like I do a few lines here and there. It's all the team that is doing the hard work of creating it. That's what obviously takes the time creating the game. So I'm just so glad to kind of see it develop and become what it is today because they're all so talented. But I actually discovered it through my other half. So my other half, he teaches. He's a lecturer and now a course leader of the games kind of department in university. So he does everything, and he knows kind of everything games world, anything you can imagine. Like he's just so talented and good at it, and he knows obviously a lot of people in that industry, and his friends have created himself and friends have created kind of video games or have their own studios or in their own productions. And he's kind of definitely helped me with the voiceover world of navigating it a bit more because I had no idea. I was like, cool, I want to get voiceover. And he's like, how? I don't know. So he's definitely helped me with that. And he was actually the one who was being a I don't want to butcher the words. This is my problem. I'm not with the right word. Like an artist. He was an artist on the game initially, and he started when they first started creating, and they were, bless him, he always like pitches me to him if he's in or something. He's like, oh, do you need a voiceover actor? So, and I was still learning as well. So he was like, do you need someone? They were like, actually, yeah, we do need someone for the leads. And I was like, yeah, me, I'll do it. So I've been really lucky on that one. To get my foot in the door that way. And then when they're like, oh, do you know anyone who can do this? And I'm like, yes, he's my friend, here's this, here's that. Like whatever you do, I think it's all about just helping one another. If you have an opportunity and they go, oh, do you need someone? And then you just make it more public. So yeah, it's different for every project because some projects, voiceover particularly, I found myself. And others it has been fortunately through connections. And that's when you do realize it. That is what the industry is about connections and building your network. But yeah, so cool to see it out now. And obviously it's still in process, but it's nuts when you can just be like, that's me, that's my voice. Like I found another game that I was in the other week because I was like, you start to create like reels and stuff for the year. And I was like, oh my God, it's me. As much as obviously I'm very critical when I hear myself and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound realistic or doesn't sound believable, but it's still so cool. And I think that's what keeps me going and wanting to be in more to just improving it. But yes, it's nuts. I love it. It's so cool.
I'm glad you find it comfortable doing voiceover work and stuff, because I can't stand the sound of my own voice, as in I don't like my voice. I sound terrible, and I could just about listen back to these interviews because I just dread hearing myself back, and I'm like, in the editing stage, for a friend Mike who does the editing, he I tell him to turn it down when my voice comes on because I can't stand it. He's he thinks
I completely go, you know. Or sometimes when you hear it and you're like, oh my God, do I sound like that?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get past that bit of stop being so critical or cringing at yourself, and you try. That's what's really helped slowly developing in my studio of trying to not pay too much attention of being like, oh my God, I hate how I sound so annoying, and actually think, okay, what take sounds good, what is good, like the more technical side of it. And I think focusing on the more technical aspects of it and what sounds better professionally and for the role or anything like that, it's definitely helped me ignore kind of like, I sound so annoying, especially have to replay it over and over again. And it's just like, oh my God, shut up. So I know, I feel your pain. So when you watch, like when I watch myself in something, I hate it because you're like, oh my God, like my expressions and things like that. And it's like, oh, it's horrible. But it's just learning, I think, to get over it or taking as I say, taking it from a more professional standpoint of what was good about that, what was bad about that, you know, what worked or didn't work is the most important thing.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. So you do modelling as well, from what I read. So how did you get into that? And do you enjoy that, or is it just something you'd like to do to add to your resume?
So I've only kind of picked it up recently.
Okay.
Like with kind of like current age and stuff, trying to get better at social media and stuff, and keeping, you know, more on top of posting things that I'm doing and stuff, because people do find you that way, surprisingly. As much as it can be who you know, it's also, for me, I've tried to reach out more people online, and luckily some people have found it, and a couple of photographers are like, cool, do you want to come to a shoot we're doing, you know? So I'm still so new to it. Like, I have some friends who are incredible models, and they truly are models. I wouldn't say I'm a model, because I'm not to that extent, because again, it's such a career path. Like, you know, I never want to look down on people's journeys of it, because getting into modeling is hard, like, and especially to, you know, the industry level, like the high end level of it. So for me, I'm still kind of playing around with it, and I have modeled for a couple things, but they are more of helping one another out, you know, of they need stuff for their portfolios. It's great for my portfolio, and it's a challenge for me, because I've never done it. I've done my headshots and things like that before, where it's like, okay, do stuff with your body. I'm like, no, but I don't look good doing that. So I have so much respect for models, because there's so much more to it that I think a lot of people don't consider. And looking natural at it, you think, oh yeah, this looks good, and it doesn't. So I wouldn't say I'm a model, just because of the respect of, there's so much to get into it and stuff. But I've enjoyed the experiences that I have done so far. And if I got more from it, amazing. You know, I'm so open to anything and where my career takes me. And it's a lot of fun. It's challenging for me, obviously, because I've never done that sort of stuff before. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is good. I have enjoyed it. And again, it's just doing different avenues and just keeping myself creative and doing things that excite me or challenge me. I'm completely up for it. I'm always up for that.
Lovely, nice one. Sarah Orchard from the Dyspraxic Women's Network asks, dyspraxia is not well understood by the general public. What do you think could be done to raise more awareness?
I do think it's definitely still not fully understood. Like, for me, for example, I probably don't know everything that I should know. Getting it out there more. I think for the younger generations and the current generations, I think social media and the whole kind of online presence is definitely a good avenue to get awareness, because there's so many people online and sitting on their phones and stuff. I think finding a good and a respectful way and an educational way of getting that information out to, not even, you know, the current generation or younger generation, just in general, people who sit online, I think that would be a really good niche to get into. And I guess also just getting people, as you are doing now, people's own experiences and saying things that they've gone through and struggled through, and just trying to reach people slowly. I think, like anything, it would probably take time. But I definitely think, as much as social media and the online presence can be a bad thing, I think a good way is to try and make it good and make things more educational and just people's experiences. I think the best way for people to understand, I think, is having an understanding or a connection with someone else's experience, and maybe going, oh, I didn't actually know that. And it's just about education, and there's so many, I think, open-minded people. It's reaching out to those people and to get that information out. And once that information starts creeping, then when, you know, we are in person and stuff, and someone does say, oh, I'm struggling in this situation, say for work, in a work environment, they go, I'm struggling. That's when you hope someone goes, oh, actually, I read that online, or I saw someone say the experience. this is how I can help. So yeah, I think online could be a great way of starting off and getting people's experiences and marketing it properly so it's the right way, but you know, getting it out there. I think that is good. Just educating, innit? That's what it's all about.
Definitely. I read you're a qualified interpreter in British Sign Language. Is that true? And what made you choose to learn that skill if it is?
So I'm not certified. I will
Okay.
say that. I have learned very basics of it. So a couple of years ago, I wanted to just learn it. And it's taken me a long time to learn it. 100%. I do really struggle with it. And that's, I think, I wouldn't say I'm to the standards or the level of saying that I can do sign language, because I'm 100% not. Just because, yeah, it's taken me so long to learn it, and you know, other things grouped in, it hasn't been the number one priority, granted. But the reason why I wanted to learn it is I just found it so interesting. I always have so much respect for people who can speak and write in other languages. It's incredible to me. Like, it honestly racks my brain how people can like know like 4 or 5 different languages. It blows my mind. But I've always been very aware of sign language. I've had family friends who have been deaf, and I knew very basics when I was younger of like just saying hello, goodbye, simple things. And yeah, just a couple of years ago, it just kind of perked up, and I was like, I want to learn it, you know. So I'm slowly doing it. And actually, now that you reminded me, it's definitely something that I can work on during this lockdown, of actually proper sitting down and working on it. And yeah, I think it's just so interesting. And I also think partly the reason why I want to do it is if I can just help someone in a situation. Like, I find it so horrible to see someone in a bad situation, regardless what it is, if they're struggling with something or they're clearly in need and they need help. And with sign language, I think is something that a lot more people should know. And granted, I should know and learn. And I think it would be so cool for younger children to learn it. And I know some schools do that as well, but to treat it the same as languages, because it is a language. And for some people, that is their only way of communication. And for me, the overall goal of learning it is if I can just help someone in a situation, even in a shop, of them maybe struggling to articulate what they want, because I struggle with my articulation and I can speak and I can hear. Imagine what it's like if you can't with one of those. So yeah, for me, it would just be so fulfilling, and it would just, for me, personally, it would mean the world to me if I knew that I could just help someone in that moment of communication when they need it. And that's what got me wanting to learn it. And I need to kick myself up the butt to learn it more, because I do find it hard, because it's very backwards in learning it. And that's what I struggle with, is the thought process of certain bits, it's kind of sign backwards. So so if they say, are you deaf? It's like, deaf are you? And that just racking my brain around it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't get it. So it's a real struggle for me. But yeah, I'm definitely going to hold myself to that, and I'm going to learn it more. But yeah, I find it really interesting.
I really admire you for that, because I've got a sister who is 80% deaf in both ears, and my cousin, she's permanently deaf in both ears, and I've actually got bilateral deafness. Had it since I was a kid. I've had grommets, and I'm due to get hearing aids. So I really appreciate you, taking that field and willing to help others by learning that skill. And yeah, it's a good attribute to have. And I've watched a lot of the government press releases, and I've noticed like the Scottish and Welsh and Northern Ireland governments make it evident that they're keen to, advise people that are deaf by having interpreters on the screen. Not so much here. You have to tune into a certain channel to get that on screen for the UK, for the England press releases. But I feel like it's good that sort of assistance for people that are deaf is coming into prominence now. It's not so much.
Yeah.
It's not being sidetracked. It's being, put onto the centre stage now, which is good to see.
No, that's so good to hear. That is good.
It's good. And I read online that you enjoy taking part in martial arts such as I think it's called Muay Thai and kickboxing. What is that like for you? And again, I wouldn't particularly say they're dyspraxic sports, but how did you embrace that?
I really enjoy them. So actually, when I was younger, my dad and brother got into kickboxing, and I was like, yeah, I want to join. I was a little bit too young, and they were like, it might be a bit too brutal for you. So I didn't get the opportunity to do it, but I always saw it, and I was like, it looks so cool. And when I started to have a bit more time in university, I was like, stuff it, I'm going to do it. Even though I had the nerves of like, oh, what if I'm the only girl there? Ignore that. Like, I got over that. I was like, I want to do it. And also I saw it more as like a skill to learn, especially to help in acting as well. They're always like, oh, you can act. What else can you do? What else can you do? And that was a bit worrying for me because I was like, I can't do anything else. So, I have my certain sport. So I was like, I'm just going to see it as a sport and a way to keep healthy and learn a skill. And also just to feel confidence in myself I know how to defend myself. And I think that's really important for anyone, is just knowing a sense of self-defense. But I love it. It's so much fun. Of course it could be quite brutal, like it hits your cardio like anything. But my cardio is terrible, so it gets me going. But I just love it. But it is a bit, it throws me off sometimes, because obviously, again, it's all repetition and like coordination, and every now and again I'm a bit like, oh wait, what am I doing? So at the moment, me and my boyfriend, he's basically teaching me boxing as much as he knows about boxing. I'm kind of teaching him a bit about kickboxing, upper kicks, and it's throwing me off a bit because I'm so used to performing and stuff in like an orthodox stance, like a right-handed stance with like left foot forward, right foot back. And technically in like boxing, I would be southpaw because we're lefty. So your strongest one is back. That's where your power. And it just throws me off when I have to swap between them for certain things, like with if it's for a scene, if it's for an acting role, or it really kind of confuses me sometimes because it's all the coordination. So you just kind of, I just have to take a step back and go, okay, which one is it? And just walk it through initially, or do it slowly, like that's what we're doing. Okay, cool. And then once I know it and can say it in my head, it's all good. So I'm still learning it. It is hard, but it's good. It is a lot of fun.
Nice. And I noticed you mentioned cardio there. I'm going to do a little bit of a selfless plug there. My friend Mike, who is my collaborator, the guy that sings the theme tune for this podcast, the jingle, he also edits this podcast, but he also, on behalf of my fitness account for Dyspraxic Help for You, runs a cardio group every Thursday on Zoom at 7:00.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you want to improve your cardio, Gemma, you know where to go.
Cool. All right, we'll do. You see me bright red, struggling.
But you won't see me there because I don't want anybody to see me doing my exercise. It's not a good sight, not a good look.
Oh, I agree. I'm the same. That's why for ages I was like, indoor workout. Because I just go bright red. And they're like, are you okay? And it's like, I'm good. I just go tomato.
But I did karate once, and I did a dyspraxic thing by not looking behind me, and there was a radiator behind my foot, and I went to kick back, and I sort of hit the back of my heel, and that wasn't pleasant.
Oh yeah, it's so easily done. I think that's why I like the stunts help me. Like the guys, they because there's a lot of safety, and you have to be aware of your surroundings, and a lot of things are eyes, and if you can see something someone else can't, it's 100% helped me a bit. Not around the house because I'm still so clumsy, but yeah, it definitely helps.
I read on your online on your website that you are now, usually actors tend to sort of have up their attributes and skills, like horse riding, and can ride a plane, or can run a marathon or 10 marathons a year, right? Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can do these, but are these just things you put on your CV to bump up a little bit? So it says you're a keen weightlifter, skier, and snowboarder. Now, if so, what is that like for Dyspraxic? Because I find that, like, as someone who can't drive, who can't do anything that you can, hardly any of the sports you can do, right? I find it quite admirable and kind of like wow, I'm a bit stunned by it. Like, can you genuinely do those things? And if so, do you enjoy doing them?
Yeah, so I can. I'm definitely, this is a mixed opinion, obviously, with actors. Sometimes people just put it on there and then we'll learn it after.
Yeah.
But I don't like doing that because I don't want to be caught off guard. So I can do those things, but obviously when someone asks, they're all at different levels. So weightlifting, yes, I do lift. Very, very heavy? No, I'm not there yet. But I'm still learning. A lot of the things, I'm just quite honest with what I can and can't do, because if someone goes, do it, and you can't, you don't want to be a liar. I don't want to be anyway. So yes, I do weightlifting, and slowly but surely, just working it up. But skiing, I struggle learning a lot of my sports because it takes me so long, and especially, so I started off as a skier. I learned a bit later, as they say, a lot of the people, so I learned in France mainly, and most of the kids, they learn when they're kids and they're children, and they're speeding around, and I'm like, I don't know, in my teens, struggling. So for me, it was a lot of just ignoring everyone else and just being like, well, I'm learning it now. I'm lucky enough to learn this. I'm fortunate enough. Let's just make do. So it took me quite a while to learn skiing. But yes, I can ski to a decent level, I must say. I don't like to toot my horn too much, because then if I can't perform it, like, too much embarrassment. So yes, I can ski. Snowboarding, I'm still learning, but a lot of the time they say skiers can't snowboard because it is two different techniques. Like with skiing, for example, you have to keep your knees in when you turn, whereas snowboarding, you pretty much keep your knees out. And initially, I would always be like leaning to one side, and I'm like, why am I like shifting this way? But it's because of your knees and stuff. So yeah, I'm finding snowboarding quite hard to learn, and I'm still learning. I don't know whether that's because of my age. I don't know whether that's because of the disability, or it's just me not being able to learn it. But I think it's just perseverance with anything, and that's what I try and do with my sports. Of course, I break and I have my meltdowns, but have a few sweets to keep you going. But yeah, I think it's just taking your time with it. If you need longer, like I just tend to need longer learning something, but I just give myself that time and just really try and keep going and remember why you want to do it. It's like, I want to look cool being a snowboarder come down the mountain. So just keep remembering that and just do it.
With the weightlifting though, I've got a friend who's dyspraxic, and she runs my fitness account as well. And she's trained to be a personal trainer. And it's a common theme with dyspraxic, as far as I'm aware, myself included, that muscle definition is quite hard to ascertain. Like I've never been able to get like any sort of muscle definition. I played football badly, I must say, for years and years. And I never really got any muscle. And I went to the gym for quite a long time as well. Could never get used to the weights. And so, have you ever do you struggle with muscle definition, or have you got quite an easy ride of it in terms of developing sort of strength, upper body strength?
So you know what? I never actually knew that was kind of a thing. I just thought it was more. So I do struggle kind of with definition. I've always been a bit on the curvier side, which is nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I do find it really hard to kind of define. But then at the same time, I try and look at it as like, is it just me being lazy with my diet? Is it just my kind of lifestyle? So I do struggle with it, but I'm not completely sure without properly, like, say, for example, having a trainer and ruling out those factors. I don't know for me if it properly comes to play, if it's just me being a foodie too much, but I do struggle with it a bit. But because I always have done quite a lot of sports, I do tend to put on muscle, but
does it stay though? Does it sort of, would it, do you think it would stay if you kept on doing it, or?
Yeah, most of the time, but I would say you probably won't see it because I would
Yeah.
still look a bit more fluffier, essentially. I don't know the right words, but yeah, you probably won't see it, but I do have muscle, but it won't look like the proper athlete look, I don't think, unless I had the cleanest diet. But I like food, so it's like,
Yeah. Hell with muscle, who cares?
exactly. You just work with it. I think you just have to give all you got, I think. And the same, I think sometimes it can be down to genetics as well, and just might not be fortunate with it. But yeah, I do struggle with it 100%. But
Yeah, well,
nah.
I do this comparison all the time on my podcast between myself, my sister who's autistic, and my brother who's neurotypical. He's quite muscular as the best sporting out of the three of us, and he's got the best physique. I play football just as much as him, but my body would never, grow where I wanted it to, and his body did. So I can definitely tell there's some hindrance with my disabilities physically that compared to him who had no disability, that you could kind of tell that his body was always going to be like muscular, and he was never going to struggle in that regard. So
That's very interesting, actually. I never actually considered it from that. That's really interesting.
So when I'm just used to rolling with it and letting it all go. It's all gone.
Exactly. It's like, this is me. I'm trying to love me for me. That's what it is.
Definitely. I've got the greatest showman in my head right now.
Exactly.
So, what's coming up then, Gemma, in these turbulent times? What's your plans for the future?
Oof. I think with the current situation, everything going on, or this current year or next how many years, I think for me, and it has been for me for a couple of years, is just training, just keeping up my training. As I said, like, I'm really enjoying the combat aspect of screen acting, and I'm very lucky to train with a stunt team who have taken me on and really helping me develop in that side of it. And I would love to implement that more into my performances, as well as my non-combat roles. It's just kind of getting into more screen work and taking on roles that I really care about and are passionate about, and being fortunate enough to get, whether that be in screen, voiceover, lucky enough to be in mocap. Like, they're avenues that I still want to succeed and progress in. But overall, the long-term goals is just being financially stable. And for me, being financially stable in being fully supported by my passion and love. I think it's very real, and the norm that most creative people have other incomes, whether that be a normal job, as you say, because it is very hard to be fully dependent in the creative aspects, I think, personally, especially as an actor. I'll say it from my opinion. So being fully dependent and financially stable, doing things that I love, is my dream, and that's what I want. And then I can give back to people who have supported me, financially and physically, like everything. Having that faith that I can do this, even though it is hard, like any career, you have different struggles. So yeah, definitely for me is, I'd love to be doing what I love full time, 100%. And yeah, that would be so cool, just to be doing different projects back to back and working on different characters and productions and performances would be absolutely incredible. That's the ultimate goal. But yeah, just keep chugging. That's my goal, is no matter what, keep doing what I'm doing, but at the same time, I think what's very important that people need to do more is giving yourself a break. I think being more in tune with your body and knowing when you need to stop and you are pushing yourself too much, or when you're just kind of like, I need a break from wherever it is, I'm just drained, whatever way it is. And just overall being more happy, I think, is very important in yourself and your surroundings and your loved ones. And I just want to try and be a better person and be more of a support for other people, and always being there when someone needs me. That's what I'd love. I, of course, love helping people as well. So if I can do that along the way, that'd be great. Just making other people happy as well. Or finding their passions. That's what I'd love to help with as well. If someone's like, yes, I found it. It's like, cool. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Where can we find you online and on social media then, Gemma?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm Gem_Wallace. I'm going to have to remember all my tags now. I don't remember them. I'm on Twitter. I think I'm Gem_Wallace18. And you can also find me on my page on Facebook. It's just Gemma Wallace Actor. Yeah, so I'm almost from Gemma with a G though. Always remember Gemma with a G.
Gemma with a G, definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you very much for your time, Gemma. And
of course, I've loved it as well. It's lovely to get to know you a bit as well.
Lovely. And we hope to see you around in the community even more in the future.
Yes,
Brilliant.
no, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time, Gemma. And we wish you well for the future.